Hello and welcome again to another very exciting edition of the Re-Up. We are your hosts, Deacon Seaworth, Lady Lasagna Witt, and of course, your main man, Bishop One Good Leg. As I mentioned on last week, I want to start sharing these true Hollywood stories. Every story I'm going to share with you in this segment is going to be true, and every segment definitely is going to be strange. Let me just preference and say that. Um,
You got an eventful life, y'all. A bunch of
Definitely,
strange
absolutely,
things happen to be.
absolutely, without question.
Yes, sir.
So I shared with you last week about the storm and how I felt like it was the rapture. Um, this week, a story comes from a recent family gathering that I went to. So one of my younger cousins has a son, and it was his birthday, and he says, "Hey, instead of just having a birthday party, which with us, a kid's birthday party is a kid's birthday party up until a certain time, then it turns into a grown folks party. That's just how that goes. That's just how we do it. Like there's black folks, and so get into a family kind of barbecue, and just everybody come over, and we have a good time. Blah blah blah. Da 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 da. I want y'all to see the house." So I was like, "Yeah, okay, cool. Well, we hadn't seen each other in a long time. I'm gonna pull up." Something in my mind told me that it wasn't going to go as planned because I had never heard tell of him having exceptional cooking skills. I had never heard, anybody say, "Man, little cuz can really get down, man." So I'm like, where did he get his culinary skills from? Where would they pass down? What is his lineage as it comes, to being able to be a pit master? So I said to myself, you know what, self, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna give the food the eye test, and if it's wrong, then I'm going to stay a little bit and then I'm gonna dip and what I'm saying, go on my way. You know what I'm saying? Because I showed up, I showed my face. It is what it is. Well, the day before, my mom calls me and she's like, "Hey, I need you to come pick me up, and I want to ride to the party with you because whatever." I was like, shoot, this is not going to pan out well as far as me leaving because I know she ain't going to be ready to go. She likes to hang and mix and mingle. And I say, listen, either she going to be ready to go with me or she going to have to catch a ride with somebody else. Full disclosure, full transparency. I'm just telling you my thoughts. So anywho, we go, and they immediately, as soon as we got there, they're like, "Hey, where the food at? Bust it out. We ready." You know what I'm saying? We're not trying to play games with you. Come on with it. So he's like, "Oh yeah, it's ready, man. It's ready." He pulls the pan out, and people go to getting and eating. And I say, "Okay, people ain't just running out the kitchen, so maybe it's something to it." I go in there, and I was like, "Whoa, what in the Bethlehem baby in the manger? What's going on?" So, um, let me just say that the burgers look like sausages. Okay, sausages that have been cooked, and then cooked. The weenies looked like he put them directly on the fire. Look at somebody and say directly on the fire. The only thing that, as the kids would say, was bussing, they had some pasta salad, and then the baked beans was hitting hard. But other than that, it was a no go, and I was upset at myself because I couldn't leave, and because they were so energy conscious, they had the AC turned up, and I was like, "It's hot in here. I feel
Mm,
I feel big, hot, and hungry, and I'm not liking either of these feelings, and I'm ready to go. I'm ready
mm,
to
mm, mm.
get up out of here because I'm not comfortable. Look at somebody and say, I am not.
Bishop, you didn't understand the assignment. It was a baked bean pasta salad hot party. And you didn't get the memo. It was baked bean pasta salad hot party. And the baked beans was hot, the pasta was rocking, and the house was hot. Mm-hmm. It was a baked bean pasta hot party. Sheldon, would you agree?
Yeah. And let me ask you this, Dion. Like, this person you don't think this person gonna watch this show?
Not today.
At the end of the day, they can't whoop me. So you know that for sure.
But their feelings might be hurt, man.
Well, I mean, I hope not, man. But at the end of the day, we got to be real about it. I mean, listen, if he needs some tips and techniques, you know what I'm saying, get at me. I'll be happy to show you how to really get it done. But you should have had somebody over there supervising you if you didn't know what you did. That's what it boils down to. It's not me trying to belift him or nothing like that. You feel me? I mean, I would never belift him.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's summertime, so maybe in one of our future episodes, Dion can give us some Fort Worth grilling tips.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
some
right
grilling tips. You think you can do that for us?
I mean, I know I can.
Some do's and some don'ts.
Yes,
definite don't.
To keep your hamburgers from looking like sausages. I'm trying to picture that in my head.
Me too.
They were literally about like this. I was like, that's it. That's all it was to them. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, that's not even. I mean, what kind of patty did you actually use? You know how you go to the grocery store and in the meat section they have those. I think it's like 8 in a pack, those little bitty round sausages.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
They're in kind of a plastic clear thing, and
I think he was making sliders, and you'd misunderstood.
Sliders.
I think they were.
But
sliders.
You had regular buns. You should have had them line rolls. That's what you should have if you was making sliders. That's all.
That boy was making sliders, and here come Bishop messing them up.
Messing them up, boy.
That boy had his sliders together.
You missed the whole point.
I guess so.
It was Slider City, and he thought it was sausages.
Them sliders made me want to slide and spin the block.
Mm-hmm. It looked like it.
Well, y'all tuned in to the re-up, man, and I'm happy to see these faces another week. And we got a really good topic for y'all. Hey, also, I'm working on a guest for next week, so by the end of the show, I'll talk a little bit about that. Y'all will remember him because we interviewed him about when we was back in Fishbowl. Him and his wife, dropping some music, and he got some new music that he wants to share with us. So I'm excited about that. Last week, if you missed the show, the title of the show, Is It God? Discerning his voice in a noisy world. So we talked all about, how to, differentiate between, am I hearing God? How do we hear God? Like, how do we practically do that? And so really good show. I would definitely recommend people go in and go check that out. And as Dion stated, he had another story about the storm, because we've been having storms. We've been having a lot of rain, a lot of stuff going on here in Texas. I thought it was supposed to be April showers brings May flowers. Like we like
May showers.
We like a month behind, right?
Yes,
so
sir.
Almost.
So we're gonna have June flowers, I guess.
Yes, sir.
We having June showers.
I think we're gonna have a lot of them.
We're still having June showers. It's time for us to dry off and really, get to the business that really makes us who we are. Get to some of this Texas weather.
What I'm worried about though is it's doing all this raining, and in a week or so it's gonna be like 100 degrees outside.
Oh God!
So now it's gonna be extra humid.
Yep, that's true.
All that moisture just gonna be in the air, just soaking us up, walking around in atmospheric sweat.
It's the truth.
Like a sauna, like a big open
sauna. So if you're in Texas, I mean, we praying for y'all. We praying for ourselves. So current events since the last time we talked, we had a former president found guilty of 34 felonies. Crazy. Like I never. Yeah, for me, man, I'm like, all of this is a first for me. All of this is like a first. Like, and whether some people don't believe the charges are trumped up and things like that, but we've never had a president like do some of the things that we're witnessing at this point. And I know the thought that I had, and I was sharing this with Carla last week, was a lot of people don't understand. Trump is actually showing a lot of different loopholes in the government.
Mm-hmm.
Are y'all aware that most felons can't vote
at all?
Nope.
But a felon can be the president of the United States? Like, that's constitutionally. That's like you could actually be a sitting president and be sitting in jail.
That's where we rough in the hood.
So, okay. Go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying. So, I mean, this is, I always try to find the silver lining in everything, right? Since Trump has been, in office, he's really just showed a lot of gaps in the government, like, and he's pushed every limit. He came in office and was like, "What? We can't do this? Who said?" And he just been testing it, and up until last week, and to be honest with you, I don't even know what's gonna happen. And is he gonna appeal it? It might go to the
definitely. It's gonna be definitely appealed.
So
I'm sure that's what they're gonna do.
So the one thing, whether you like Trump or you don't, he actually is just uncovering a lot of different things, a lot of loopholes in the government that I think we need to think about closing. You know what I mean? Just saying.
Yeah, Dion be like, I'm not going there. Look at Bishop. Bishop said, I can't do it.
Yeah, I know he was on it last week, boy. I tell you, he was on his Black Panther. I thought he was gonna come in with all black on today.
You see his shirt?
Oh, he almost got it. I mean the glove and all though. And I know it's been a lot of. Son, you keep up with women's basketball?
Keep up with what?
Women's basketball, WNBA.
Not this season. Not too much.
Not too much. Man, it's a lot of drama going on with Caitlin Clark. Stephen A. almost got ran off his own show yesterday. Did you see that, Dion?
I didn't see it.
You didn't see it?
I didn't know what's going on. So what they done? They done some.
It's just Caitlin Clark. She's a really good basketball player that just came out of college. Played for Iowa, and so she got a lot of people looking at her. And so she's in the WNBA. But now that she's in the WNBA, like the players who've been in the WNBA, they trying to give her the business. Like they.
Oh, okay.
They being rough with her. Welcome to the NBA, the WNBA. Type stuff. So one of the little girls, and Caitlin's always been kind of a little bully herself. She's pretty aggressive with it. Okay. But these are bigger and stronger women too. So they just been rough with her. And so just been a lot of debate because she's white, she's straight. And that's not, I guess, a common thing in the WNBA. And so, people are saying that she's getting unfair, treatment because of who she is. I don't think it is. I know Stephen A's stance was that, it's bringing a lot of attention to the WNBA as a whole. So everybody should actually kind of, ride the wave with it. But, it's a lot of different things, coming up from that too.
Yeah, I'm not in the loop with that. Bishop, you wasn't in the loop either. Okay, I'm gonna have to be paying attention. They have some other stuff.
I saw some of the videos for last, you know, dust up or whatever, and they were saying the reason why, well, that she shouldn't be considered completely innocent,
Oh, okay.
basically,
No.
because she threw a bow, and then
Mhm.
when they went back down on the other end, the girl just kind of pushed her or whatever because basically, yeah, you done bowed me. I'm getting my lick back.
Mhm.
So it wasn't. She didn't just push her out of nowhere for no reason. Basically, she had pushed her because the girl, Caitlin, had bowled her in the face.
And
Oh, okay.
so Angel Reese is and Robinson Deontay. Angel Reese is also a rookie, right?
Oh, okay.
So just the background there is, 2 years ago, Caitlin's Iowa's team played Angel Reese's LSU team, and LSU, beat them. And Angel Reese, taunted her at the end of the game. After, again, Caitlin's never been innocent in this. This is not, it's not defending Caitlin or anything. It's just the narrative that's bringing so much attention to women's sports. And,
Okay.
um, we talked about it a couple of weeks. Good and bad narratives actually bring attention to things. You know what I mean?
They get
So,
people watching. They gonna get some more money now. Shoot.
and
You
that's
know,
what's happening.
people gonna try to see. They try to get them tickets. What's going on? Hey, they say when people talk about you good or bad, yeah, that's good. It's a good press. That's some good money making tactics.
yeah. So, just for example, like the college finals, more people watch the women's finals this year than the men's finals. So
Mm-hmm.
it's definitely something happening there. Um, but it's causing always some conversation there. So that's one big news story. This week. And the second one that I've been seeing across my timeline actually is what is inspiring this conversation that we're about to have right now. So 65-year-old pastor, and if I'm not mistaken, this might be an old video that just came up like maybe 2 years ago. So, maybe he's 67 now. And, but 65-year-old bishop, I'm gonna call him, what they call him, marries a 18-year-old. And apparently, they got married, not too long after she turned 18. And so it's just been going, viral all over the place. And, a lot of content creators are talking about it. But, one of the things that I'm hearing, and it brings up, a thought or a narrative that I see a lot when it comes to the church, right? You guys are comedians, right? Y'all have heard like all the jokes about, priests in the church, messing with little kids and things like that. There's always been like these underlying, I guess, narratives that encompasses the whole church, right? And on this show, we talk about a lot of things that might hinder people from coming to church, right? And so what got me was hearing somebody that, I honestly, I don't know what their belief is based off of their comments, though. I would assume that they don't believe too much in, into church, or definitely in how church is ran. But it becomes an excuse as to why people don't go to church, right? Or why they don't believe in God. And so, again, we normally talk about the obstacle of judging, like how judgmental Christian people are with people that might be holding them back. But I really want to talk about the church itself, the institute, what it's really made up of, and why that shouldn't be something that keeps you from, seeking truth in God, right? So, the title of this show is Believers in Progress, right? And navigating church imperfections. And so I really want to start off with and delve into the topic and just start off with the main take, right? The church is full of progressing Christians. That's a secret. I mean, if it's a secret to anyone else, but it's full of people. The Bible says that all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. And what that means is the church is full of people who came off the street, started going to church, and we're all in these different levels of our walk with God. So that's kind of where I want to start this basis off. Because, you know, I think people have the opinion that because you're going to a church or because you would go to a church, that everything in the church would be perfect. You know, it would be better than you know, going to other places that, you know, have a bunch of people in it. And me being in church as long as I have, and I've been in some good churches and I've been in some really, you know, questionable churches. There's always something in it that's humanity, that's flesh, that's that's like, because people are in it. You know what I mean? And so I really want to talk about that. I want to answer a couple of questions, and I want us to kind of talk about some of our experiences. You know, we don't need to drop no names or anything like that, but, you know, different things like that. But really just point out the fact that we don't want you guys to go to church looking at people and end up missing God.
That's true.
So
that's exactly the truth.
That's my premise. What are y'all thoughts about that topic? Like where y'all want to go with it? Because I got about 10 questions there.
Okay, he got 10 questions.
Y'all had some experience with some or got some examples of some things that you know don't seem right?
Look at Dion's face.
Look at Dion. He got a whole bunch of them. Huh?
He do. I see. Come on, Dion. You help start us in this conversation because you look like you got a lot to say. His face is talking loud.
So I guess my question is, do y'all think that the old pastor being with the young girl is disgusting?
I will tell you what I think. I think her mind and her brain is not formed enough to make a decision to go with a pastor of that age. He's 65, she's 18. Your brain is not even formed until you're 25 years old. That's too young in his position and at her age to make a decision of that magnitude. Now, if she 18 and the boy 18 or 19, both their brains young. He's 65, she 18. What is she, 18?
18.
Yeah, I just think her brain is not developed enough. That's too much of an advantage, naturally, spirit, every way. 65 and she's 18. If it's 35, it's not even age. Like if she was 35, makes 65 is different. You 40 and 65 is different. You have different experiences in life. You've been through different things, and your brain is wired different. That's what I think the real issue is. Her brain is not developed enough to make a decision that informed to be with somebody of that magnitude and that age. And he got a huge position. You put a young girl in a position like that, being a pastor's wife, that's a dangerous position because the pastor have a lot of position, and in the spirit, he's a threat. A good pastor or a bad pastor, because he's taken on that office, he's going to bring a lot of attacks to the pulpit, and the wife is going to be susceptible to most of the attacks, whether it's a good church, bad church. Offices bring certain attacks, and the pastoral office is going to bring a certain kind of attack. So I don't think she's developed enough for spiritual warfare to be married to a pastor at that age and to have what she needs in the spirit or natural to be a successful wife for the position or the age that he comes, because age does bring about certain experiences. So that's what I would say. It's too much that he come with that she's not equipped for at the age and her experiences that she's had so far in life. That's the best politically correct way that I can put it.
And for the first time for the history of the real, I'm not going to be politically correct. No,
I'm just saying.
I'm just saying. No, I don't. And the other part of the story that I left out was he's known this young lady since she was 13. He's quote unquote counseled and coached her, and some people would call that grooming, right? But Dion, you bring up a really good point, and there was something that he said when he was responding to this matter that I want to make sure that we highlight. He said in the streets, people would look at her like she had a come up, like she married into a great situation and all that kind of stuff, and people would look at him like, oh, you was able to pull a young baddie in the
Not
street,
at 65
right?
and 18. Even the streets wouldn't agree with that.
But here's the thing. The
Well,
reason I'm asking you,
He said that, but that ain't what they'll do.
there's people on TikTok. There's and I don't know if it's this big of an age gap. But
That's
I
what I
know
mean.
there's some guy up here that's like, I don't know, 65, 70, and he would like a 20 or 30-year-old woman or something like that. And they, that's their thing, I completely, so again, I lay it out with what I personally agree with it. But that's kind of what I want to highlight. Like, regardless of whatever, you think of people thinking this is right or wrong, this happens in the world, right? So this pastor, whether we want to know it or not, he's 65. So I want y'all to think of something, right? He grew up in a time where people was marrying off 14, 15, 16-year-olds. You know what I mean? Like he was witnessing that type of thing. So in his mind, maybe he's or whatever. But we're going to talk a little bit more about this. That's part of the issue, right? When people come into the church, when you first get saved, and the church, we don't do a good job of talking about this, and we haven't done a good job talking about this, but people are coming in with their own traumas. They're coming in with their culture. They're coming in with all these different things that they think in their mind is right? And God is working that out of them, right? Then they're in different levels of that. You know what I mean? So unfortunately, he's a pastor, right? Mm-hmm. So he's supposed to be a leader. He's supposed to be a little further along in that process. But, up until recent years, I haven't really heard churches talk too much about, recommending people go to counseling and things like that, right? Counseling in a lot of churches that I grew up in was like, you don't need counseling. You just need Jesus, just pray it away. But some people have some practical issues, some practical things that they need to talk through. And God gave some people on this earth some inspiration, the skill set to be able to kind of talk through, help you, finagle through that. Dion, I'm sorry, you was going somewhere with it, but I wanted to answer your question. But what's your thoughts, man? Are you good with it?
You mentioned, in his time that he grew up, he saw that a lot, and even in the Bible itself, especially in the Old Testament, that was kind of how things were. And so it may be strange or unusual to people like us in today's times, but at the same time, it shouldn't be something that's that taboo. I mean, if they have a commonality or a bond, what I'm saying, that transcends age, that's them, what I'm saying, and that's specific to their relationship. Not every single relationship is going to be the same, and I'm not advocating what they're doing in any way. I'm just saying that different people have different attractions. Some people are attracted to older men. Some women are attracted to younger men. You know what I'm saying? Some slender ladies are attracted to big guys. You know what I'm saying? Vice versa. I mean, it's just all in people's preferences, and that's what I wanted to bring out is that everybody's got their preferences as long as it's legal and it's it's okay by the laws and by the sight of God, then what I'm saying, it should be what it is. You know what I mean? And so we shouldn't put a limitation on people's love, as long as, like I said, it's within the legal and the moral confines of, what I'm saying, everything that has been, set up.
So let me ask you this. So, you definitely brought up some valid points, right? Biblically, we saw that happen, and I won't say recent history, but definitely I would say back in the 40s, 50s, 60s. I don't know. Am I going back far enough? You know what I mean? But you also saw in those times where women didn't have rights, right? And where women were, there's some cultural things in there that made that okay as well. And Lasagna's point, just in human development, my concern is, you're right. You can't help who you love and all that kind of stuff. I get that argument, but I do believe that if you have an older man that's having conversations with a young woman, 13, 14, 15 years old, there could be some type of conversation is leading her into it. And we see that happen all the time, like unfortunately, with people who are in pedophilia and stuff like that, that are attracted to younger girls and things like that. There's always this grooming process that happens that, makes that even allows this woman at the time, young woman, to believe like she's in love with this person. You know what I mean? To me, it's an unfair advantage. It's like an older woman, coming doing that to a young man. Like, we in school, we've seen stuff like that happen, right? And it came out, later on, but young men would say, oh man, like I was with an older woman and right? But mentally, what's happening trauma-wise,
that's right,
with that young man or that young woman dealing with that. And so, but again, that's kind of the reason why this story makes sense or makes sense to talk about when we're talking about this, because this is probably one of the most egregious kind of topics when it comes to the church. You know what I mean? That does end up leaving a lot of, some scars and I think a black eye when it does happen in churches. We'll talk about a little bit later on that I think that church leadership has a responsibility to still keep people protected, just like you would at a school, just at some other facility, keeping young people protected. There should be some type of policies or some things in there, some guidelines that prevents different things like this to happen. And if there's not, and people are looking for churches, then I would, that would be one way to make a decision on what church to go to or not. So, again, whatever way people stand on that, I do definitely get the history of it. And you started off by saying, in our time, we have enough science, we have enough psychology to understand what's happening there. You know what I mean? Which is why it's become more of a taboo thing, for us. I would ask a 65-year-old man, what do you get from an 18-year-old?
Yeah, as far as like your experiences
mentally,
in life, like your mindset, what you've been through.
Please don't ask him.
There's only one thing. There's only
Please.
one thing he can answer that question, but that's the most shallow. That's going to be a shallow response. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? And I mean mentally. And I will tell you this: I have known people, right, that have dated younger women, right? Not that young. I'm talking maybe. Let me see. This guy was like mid 40s, girl late 20s. And just even that gap, right? She's 25 or I think she was 25 or whatever. He's close to 50. There's still a gap in mentality or what they could even talk about or what they can even have a conversation about. Like she talking like like the kids talk, and he's talking like the adult. You know what I mean? Like, so I would question why a person that age would want to be with someone outside of the obvious of maybe physical or physical needs. I would imagine there's not a lot of conversation going on. You know what I mean? And not a lot of meaningful conversation at this particular.
He must don't have no grandkids or great grandkids because she about the great grand's age.
You know, exactly. She like the great.
I'm just saying. You know, I'm just saying. We say it out there. It's about 3 generations. If you have kids at 20, you know, let's put her at 20, 40, and 60. You know, that's about 3 generations. You know, just saying if people have kids, so that's like the father and the grandfather. I'm just saying. So he must don't have no grandkids and stuff like that. No kids or grandkids, because you know, families tear up stuff like that. You know, if he got prior kids and stuff, and they older. And they see this, you know, it could be some drama, but you know, I don't know nothing about him. But I don't think she have enough wisdom or say so to make a good enough decision to be with somebody of that age from where she's been at 19. Like, there's no way. Her brain ain't developed enough. She ain't been through enough in life and had enough experiences in life. 19, no, sir. And he a pastor, which compounds the problem because he have a huge office. The pastoralship brings a lot of attacks to it that girl don't have no capability to fight off. It literally put her in danger. Like when you have a pastoral's office, like that's a huge responsibility. People don't see it that way, but it really is. And then who they come for first? The pastor's wife. You ever notice a lot of pastor's wife always sick? And a lot of pastor's wife die early, and a lot of pastor's wife, you pay attention. I say it's a reason for that. That's not by accident, because the enemy, he'd be like, okay, I'm going to come in. If I can't get you, because the office carries a certain protection, whether you right or wrong in the office, I'm going to get who you with. So I just think it's a whole world that ain't being dealt with, that is, people don't have enough maturity to even address that. They wouldn't even understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But I think all of that plays into this. And it's like, it's really serious. It's not nothing to really be planning. You just worried about we sleeping good. How is she doing all day? What is, how is she fighting off all these demonic attacks that's coming for your office and coming for you? What is she doing? She groomed in the art of spiritual warfare. She be up walking, I'm just being, I'm being serious about what I see, because I take, the word serious. I take officers serious, and I take stuff serious. So when people are making fun or they think in a certain way, I'm looking at the depths of it. What does this mean for this girl's life when them attacks come for you? What does that really mean in the details? Like, what does that mean for her? And she that young with that less of life experience. So,
And this is just one scenario, right? That happened recently. I know a couple of months ago, there was something that was going around where a pastor was up there preaching, and his mistress came into the church, and mistress, saying she's pregnant and approaching the first lady. To your point, you just kind of reminded me of it when you were talking about like what the first lady got to deal with. Again, this pastor evidently had some things that he needed to get worked out. I've seen churches where, one of the ministers or one of the associate pastors, was caught in some type of infidelity or something like that. Right. So we'll talk about, what should happen with that. So, my question to you guys is, why do bad things happen in church? And how should we interpret those events? Why do y'all think bad things happen in church?
Because there are people there. I mean, anytime you got people there, the rules are not as always black and white, when there's people involved. God gave us a manual and clear outline and clear directions and clear rules, do's and don'ts and all of that. But when you get people involved, and their interpretation of things and their, personal experiences, that's how the waters can get muddy or whatever. And that's how things can go off the hinges. And I mean, because no matter what the rules say or what the word says or whatever, they're going to do what, they want to do because they got their own free will. And that's what God says. He says, I'll give you, what to do and everything, but I'm not going to make you do it. I'm going to give you your will to choose it. And that's what happened. They either choose to do what he's already set forth and prescribed, or they're going to choose to do what they want to do, which in most cases, if it feels better to do what you want to do, that's what people are going to go for. And so that's why bad things happen in church or whatever, because people, are into self gratification. They want that instant, high or whatever. You know what I'm saying? They want to indulge themselves, if you will.
Absolutely.
Yep, that is so true. I agree with Dion. If you got people, and Jesus had 12, one of them gonna be a devil. So if your church got 24 people, two devils, 36, let's just keep multiplying. I'm just
They
saying.
in there.
I'm just saying they in there. And he picked his. We just don't get the luxury of sometimes knowing who ours is until they show out and show up and be like, oh, okay, you the devil. But yes, as long as you got people, you're gonna have imperfections in any institution. It don't have to be church. It's going to be your organization, going to be a job, a company, a school, your house, your kids, your family. You're going to have things that come up. Now, what we need to do is try to mature as a church, as the words say. We should be striving for maturity. You shouldn't always have the same problem 10 years from now that you had 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It should be something else that's plaguing you.
That's
God,
wrong.
yeah, you should be working through it. When I say that, you honestly making a concerted effort to really, God, help me to work out my own soul salvation with fear and trembling, as Paul put it. You really should be striving to do better. Now, perfection is not what you're striving for, because nobody, that's not what we're looking at. But you should be striving to do better, especially stuff if you knowing that it's wrong. Because sometimes people do things they don't necessarily know it's wrong. But if you willfully doing stuff, it's against the word, it's against your family, it's against, if you honestly, you should work on those things. Because some things God have to bring to you. Some stuff, you do, you ain't thought about it. Your family did it, granddad did it, you was cool. And then God bring it up, tap on that little shoulder. But it's some obvious things that we can bring before God and start working on, because the church, I think sometimes it's too immature, and we should be developed more, getting our muscles bigger, fighting, getting in the gym, not giving in so easily to everything that, what they said, what Paul said, lay aside every weight that so easily beset us, getting some of that stuff, that heaviness off of you. Some stuff, because the weight of sin is heavy, and some stuff weigh you down and it's heavy. So I think that we should just strive to, just to do better, to be a work in progress. Like you said, we should be progressing though. Don't be a work and stay sick with the same sickness the whole time. That's what I'm saying.
Absolutely. I completely agree with that. And the reason why I'm asking this question again, though, is you have people who are non-believers that the expectation is that, when you go to a church, that everybody there is perfect, from the pastor all the way down. And to your point, people who have been there for a while, there are some things you should have been progressed past at this particular point. You know what I mean? But you brought up a really good point. And Dion kind of touched on this earlier with the pastor. And when I watched the video, he actually was coming across like he didn't see anything wrong with this situation. And that's my concern, with it. I think the church has kind of treated our parishioners and the people that we've, brought in the church in a way to where, we see certain tendencies with different people. Right. So with this not about to call him a young man, with this old man, I can tell you, I'm pretty sure that the parishioners saw some tendencies, in him, and I'm pretty sure it was obvious what was going on. I don't even know where the parents were in this situation. That's a whole nother, story altogether. But, when we see things like that, that's where the community, I believe, should come together and be like, hey, there's some, some things we might want to talk about, but we come, a lot of us, especially in the Black community, come from that, we don't talk about it type stuff, we keep it in the house or whatever. And I like to point out, because there's always this big debate about small church and mega church or whatever. This is a small church. You know what I mean? So again, there's no separation in this. We're talking about people. And as long as you have people in a congregation, there's a threat that, something is not gonna flow completely right. Because you said it. 10 years in, yeah, you should know something. But you got people that are just coming off the street. Just just did something the night before, they went to the altar, and now what? You know what I mean? And that's where, the transparency comes in. That's where, one of the scriptures that kind of came to mind is that people are that they will be saved by the truth of the word and their testimony, right? I think us being more open about where we came from and what we struggled with and what our traumas were with people and what God did to help us in that is something that can help us mature more as a church. I think because a lot of us as Christians present as good as a finished product, we come across, and that's why it surprises people when people mess up. I don't believe in idolizing pastors. I don't. I believe that they're men or women, just like I am. I go to a church where a lot of people go to it. It's so funny when I first used to go there. If our pastor wasn't preaching, the parking lot would look a little different. You know what I'm talking about, Lasagna? It would be a little less people in there, right? Okay. So that tells you right there that some of these people were coming just for the pastor, right? Not necessarily, not for who the pastor is representing, which is God. You know what I mean? Because once you get to a mature standpoint, you start to realize no matter who's in that pulpit, if you're talking to God, like God's still gonna be talking to you. God's still gonna get you what you were coming there for in the first place. You know what I mean? But because we idolize, certain pastors, now when something comes up or you see their humanity in that person, you push away the whole word of God. And that's why, I want to have these type of conversations because the word is true. It's just us people that are flawed.
It's all churches not created equal. Like if your spirit go crazy when you're in the church, you should probably not go there. No matter who does go there or whatever they say, because God protects sheep, especially young sheep, especially new. And when you just ain't right, that particular place is just not for you. So don't override your spirit either, because God is the good shepherd. He's the shepherd of all the sheep. So if you feeling something, he will always guide you into truth, and don't override your spirit. Every house is not for everybody. So when you be feeling that, like, no, I shouldn't be here. Because it's different people doing different, all church, everybody that's in the pulpit, not called by God. Some people God sent, some people just went, And it's a protection in God when you get saved. Or when God take you somewhere, you have to trust it. But a lot of times we don't develop our spirit enough to know when our spirit's giving us warning, because by the time you're a child, your circumstance beat the spirit out you. They tell you, don't say that, don't do that. And it be your spirit. Like little kids, you'd be telling, no, you don't see that. And little kids, they see things and they feel things, but the adults try to talk them out of it. Like to your point, Sheldon, we don't talk about that. And a lot of times kids are very discerning until you beat it out of them. And then you so numb. Now you take it into your adulthood, and then your spirit go crazy, but you just chalk it up. Oh no, you don't. Your spirit is not as in tune as it would be, except your childhood. Experiences beat it out you, but God give you that spirit to tell you, no, this ain't right. Because nowadays, with these end times, it's everything is all out. You got a church for Satan. They call it Satan's church. They don't even pretend. You got a church with all kind of different things. They'll tell you what they stand for. and and everything's being acceptable, and it's like sometimes your spirit is going crazy, and you got to listen to it, or sometimes you don't even feel it. You're numbed out so much. So I think it's a lot with this subject, and I think it's layers to it, because
Mhm.
all churches is not, even that all churches that claim to be about Jesus ain't really about Jesus, and everything that you go to. That's why it's delicate, and you got to have a prayer life and be a prayerful person. I would tell anybody the first place you need to go to church is on your knees talking to God and reading your Bible. That's the first place, because it'll give you spiritual muscles. Because a babe can't take care of themselves. You have to feed a babe. You have to get a babe milk. But the first place you can get fed is of God talking to you, and you just keep praying. Even if you don't hear him right away, keep praying to him. Say, God, help me understand you. Help me with your word. Help me navigate where I'm supposed to be. I promise you, if you call for God, he an ever-present help. He'll be right there.
So let me ask you guys this: so, what are some spiritual or practical things a person can do to, to know that the church that they're going to is safer or is a good place? I know you mentioned prayer, but are there some other things that they can look for, like how they teach? I think of certain things, like the church I attend. We go out our way to protect little kids, right?
Mhm.
Part of my deacon training was, different processes and procedures we put in place to make sure that little kids weren't by themselves, little
Mm.
kids weren't in, situations to where, you know, even in a big church that someone can try to mess with them, right? I appreciate that about that. Some of our parishioners, they don't even know why. They get a little frustrated when we tell them, like, your kid too young to go to the bathroom by themselves.
Yeah, they do.
You're gonna have to take them.
That's right.
But they're not realizing that we're trying to protect their kids. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's one practical thing that I see that my church and some of the other churches that I've been a part of, um, put in place to try to make sure that we're protecting the people in there, because again, there's people, like, the church doors are open, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Which is my whole point. Like, if you jacked up, you messed up, and you need God, we the church is where you need to go for truth, right? A good church home, like Lasagna is, and and it's going to help you get right. But the truth of the matter is, there's different levels of that right. You got some people that are a day into believing.
That's
You
right.
got some people that's 60 years into believing. It's a whole gamut, whole spectrum of people in there, right? And I used to be a people watcher. I used to come in there and see people, you know, praising and doing things, and in the back of my mind, I'd be like, man, they faking. you know what I mean? Right or wrong, I don't know. But that was earlier in my thing. But I got to a point where I stopped people watching. Like, I don't care what the people around me doing, and I don't care if they watching me. You know what I mean? It's I'm there for a reason. You know what I mean? And it's not the people. It's really not the pastor, even though I love my pastor. It's not the pastor. It's a worship and service. So, my question again is, what are some things from y'all experience, spiritual or practical, that you've been to churches and you've seen them put in place that help people?
I think getting involved in as much of the inner workings of the church as possible will give you the greatest insight into what the church is all about. Um, a lot of people, I've heard them say, that have visited you all's church and have visited my church. What I'm saying? They're large churches when you first pull up, or when you first go in and visit. They're like, oh my God, it's so, I could never. It's too much. Yes, it's too much because you're trying to take it all in. But as you get into the work of the church, the groups get smaller and smaller until you realize, wait a minute, it's just a few people making this the whole thing run. you
Right.
know and those people have the greatest opinion or detraction about the church or whatever. So if you get in and start doing the work, you'll get into the inner workings and you'll understand, why the church is how it is as far as that. And it will become smaller and smaller. And as you take in those, smaller and smaller bites, you can, digest everything that's going on, and get a real sense of, how things are working. And so that's what I would encourage
But
people to do: get involved, get active, uh, do as much as you can. And that also keeps you from being just a busybody and, being a looky loo. You know what I'm saying? You're working and to help the church, be all they can be or what have you. So you don't have time to sit back there in the back row with the people that don't want anything from the church but to see it fail.
let,
And
let me
so
repreference my question though. I'm really talking to people like maybe a non-believer, somebody who's just going to church, maybe just getting saved. Um, how they, because honestly, they might need some time to get the word in them before they start serving. In any type of capacity. I'm really talking to like young Christians, especially. And we've talked about it on a number of shows. Like the culture that we live in right now, a lot of people are nervous about church. Like they just don't want to go to church. So I guess my question to you both is for those, if we have a listener out here that, they haven't went to church. They ain't been going to church. They don't want to go to church because of all of the narratives and things that they see about church. What are some telltale signs that they should look for to say this is a good church? Like what are some things that the church talks about or does to help, I guess, make that transition or make a safe place. That's what I'm saying. Build a safe environment for them to grow and meet God.
they should still get involved in some capacity, because they need to be anchored and kind of feel more a part of it. And that's the reason why, I encourage people that have been visiting churches for a while to go ahead and join, because membership is a lot different than, being a visitor. And you'll see that, what I'm saying, once you cross that line and become, part of the circle as far as that part of it. So younger Christians and new Christians or whatever should definitely be the ones to get involved as well. Maybe not, on a ministry board, but maybe, as the usher or in the choir or something to get them connected and getting them used to. It's like kind of like joining the gym. You don't want to do maybe a full circuit workout your first time there, but you want to try out a couple of machines and get a feel for how things work. Go into the locker room and stuff like that. Make sure that people aren't just, hanging out back there. Because if you bring your kids, you don't want them to get caught up in the same thing with the church or whatever. If you have some reservations about are you and your family going to be safe, then you need to investigate at the end of the day.
Hmm. I think people disciple people and not churches. And when I say that, if you know somebody that you think really got God, try to hang out with them.
Mhm.
Talk to them, bring up stuff that's on your mind. Because going to church is always going to be flaws. It's going to be things that's right, wrong, in between, because people are there. But I will say, number one, practical. Trust your spirit. When you honestly seek God and you praying and you want something from God, He has extra protections over babes. I know He does. I've been in this long enough to see they get their prayers answered. Well, I might have to wait. He gonna see about them immediately because He's building a trust factor in them. One, pray sincerely. Ask God. And when you visit Him, God, is this for me? It'll be an unction or the feeling on the inside where you connect. It's just, you may not even be able to explain it. Like, oh, this is where I need to be. Even if they got the nuances, they got stuff that's right and wrong, they got they quirks, it'll be something that connects with you in a way you can't explain it. It's like, oh, okay, this probably what I need. Okay, okay. So the first thing I say, practical, pray every single day. Really ask God, God, how is this church? Do I need to be here? I promise you, God is very concerned about you. He's concerned about sheep, especially new sheep. He have extra protections over them because he know they're new. So seek him, trust him, and let your spirit lead you to the place you need to be. You in a new city, a new place, start visiting, and he'll lead you. Like, okay, this one's okay, this, that. But it's just something that'll land. Like, they read my mail every week. It's like, this is for me. It's like when he get up to talk, I feel like he been in my house. Feel like he been in my car. It's like, oh man, how do you know that? It's just something that instinctively connects you to that particular house. That's what I will say. It's from the inside. You will have a, they call it a gut feeling. It will just connect with you. It'll connect with. So I will say that.
Yeah.
Pray. Mm-hmm.
No, I think that's good. I mean, that was my experience with leading to me attending the church that I'm in at this particular time. It
Mm-hmm.
was seeking God first, and then visiting different churches, and this was
Mm-hmm.
the church that connected with me the most. The other thing I would say is, going to a church that you talked about protection, right? God's spirit is to protect the babes, and so I think when you go to a church and you can see or you can find out that they have different things to try to help protect the innocent. A lot of people they get nervous because the police are there or security guards and things like that, or it's a bunch of deacons or the PMTs being real, you know, real structured about where you can go and where you can't go and stuff like that. But to me, that's also some guidelines for protection. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? Like, I'm a little weary of situations where you could just walk around the whole building free without anyone you know asking questions or things like that. You know what I mean? So I think that's another practical thing that I would see and that I've learned to appreciate when it comes to stuff like that.
Right.
So I know spiritually, definitely going to a place that's speaking, starting to have that conversation with God. Like, where do you want me to be? What do you want me to, do in my life? And like I said, if you didn't check out last week's show, there's some tips we've given about, how to know it's God talking to you and, what he's saying.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think there's some things you can practically see. I've seen churches have to deal with leaders in the church maybe that's caught with infidelity and how they handle that. You know what I mean? Do they handle that with grace and accountability? Because the truth of the matter is, if something does happen in the church, there needs to be some type of accountability to it. But again, in God's heart, He always has grace too. You know what I mean? He does things to get people redeemed, right? So I've seen situations where someone had some issues or whatever, infidelity or whatever, and maybe they lost their leadership seat within the church. But it wasn't all out in the news. It wasn't gossip. It wasn't all of this. It's just hey, we're gonna sit you down because you need some healing. You need some things to change about you. And I think that's a good thing, a good way to move. Because again, I believe there's an opportunity that you go to any place with people, um, you know, things can happen, and you're going to experience things. And we all often describe the church as like the hospital. You know what I mean? So it's a bunch of sick people, coming um, to get healed, and different levels, different devils, different traumas, different experiences. It's all there. You know what I mean? And the song, you said this earlier. Like, some of these people don't even know. Like, we talk a lot about judgment. To me, judgment is something that was just brought out. Like, the world likes to judge. Like, that's Satan's job as a devil. It means the accuser, right? So when you have a judgmental spirit, and I'm not talking about righteous judgment or discernment or anything like that. I'm talking about, look at you, what you doing is worse than what I'm doing type judgment. You know what I mean? Um, that's something that we bring into the church from the world. That's why it's so common to us. That's why it's so easy for us to move in that type of spirit. But I don't want that to be the reason. I don't want the fact that there's humanity in the church to keep people from seeking a good church or a good community
to help you grow,
to help you grow and learn, because they're out there. And just making a blanket statement that this is how the church is, or it's is kind of foolish, right? And if you miss God because you see the flesh experience, at the end of the day, when we all go before God, like He not gonna be like like, I know you didn't go to church because you thought X, Y, and Z or whatever. You still had an opportunity, and that's what I wanted to. I want us to, wanted to just clarify. Right? There's imperfections in the church, and the church has never told you that before. If people have, always come across like, you got saved, you were perfect, yada yada yada. No, there's some people in the church right now that got some messed up ways of thinking that we gotta get better with. So, how can the church, how can we find that balance? I'd say this is my last question, between grace and accountability in the church, and still build a safe place, because there's some churches, there's some experiences where we don't build a place for transparency. And what I mean by that, right? You come in and you got an issue. Some places that you might go, because everyone is pretending or acting like they got everything together, then you got to act like you got to go, get everything together. And you got this struggle, you got this sin, and you need to really be able to talk to someone about it and get help with it. How can we better, build a culture of transparency and accountability and grace? Y'all got any thoughts about that?
It's like what Sonya said earlier, whatever, having those relationships, those, mentorships, they're vital, for somebody. And the Bible speaks on it too, about older men and older women showing the younger ones, the way and everything like that. There should be somebody, especially if you don't have a father or mother figure in your life, you find someone, what I'm saying, at the church who's really, in that lane that could mentor you and take you under their wing. That goes a long way in giving you what you need to feel that safe space, and the space between grace and accountability is love, and that's the difference. And basically, when you tell somebody something, even if it's a hard thing, if you're telling them in love to help them and to guide them and grow them, then that's what grace is about, or whatever. What I'm saying? Not giving them the wrath, but saying, hey, at the end of the day, I need to tell you, what you did was wrong, but here's how, you can, move forward and be stronger. God will forgive you. Don't worry about it. And just, loving them back to, their level, or, restoring them, if you will.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the one-on-one connection, finding people that you can connect with and that you can trust. I can tell you, my personal circle of, spiritual people that I talk to about my struggles, about my, what I'm dealing with in life is small. Like, it's not very big, but it does make you mentioned serving at the church, but also finding the small community within the church of people that you can have conversations, transparent conversations with, right? There's a story in the Old Testament. The song you probably know exactly where it's at, but I think Aiden, and he was hiding. God told him when they got the city, don't take anything from the city. But him and his family got the stuff and buried it in the tent, and then a bunch of curses and stuff was happening on the camp, and basically God said, like, hey, I told y'all not to touch this stuff, and the consequences that happen with that happened to him and his family. You know what I mean?
Got everybody killed. I'll be like, God, we getting divorced today. What's all this about? Now he ain't about. Now he didn't stole that on his own. Now that ain't got nothing to do with me. Don't pull me and the kids in this foolishness. Now he done took it and it's over.
No, you were celebrating when you saw that silver and gold pieces. Don't unfortunately on him now.
We rich.
Like, oh baby,
he got us all dead. He got us all judged.
Yeah. But the point, the point, one of the points I think in that scripture was, that you can't. There's no redemption for secret sin. So stuff that you keep wanting to hide, you keep wanting to ignore, it festers, it grows,
it does.
And it becomes other things that we're talking about, today. So it's important to be in environments, to be in communities, church communities that foster, that allow for you to be transparent about what you're going through. You know what I mean? Before it becomes bigger and it starts affecting other people and affecting yourself. So I just think it's important, right? And again, wherever people's at,
there'll be troubles at.
They're gonna. I mean, that's it. Dion said it way earlier. We got a will, and everybody got a choice, and they make choices. And a lot of people make choices for their best interests or what they feel like, need to be addressed and stuff like that. And it's not necessarily, beneficial for all. But, the church ultimately, like if you go there and you're seeking and you have the right expectation of seeking God for what he has for you, then you won't miss it. And so, my last, I think, thought to, again, any unbeliever that has seen things happen and things come about in church or whatever, is to like Lasagna said, seek God first. If you got questions, I mean, again, real questions. I've always challenged you. Like, even if it's like, God, are you real? Or whatever. Start having that conversation with them. But don't let the fact that people are people keep you from seeing God. You know what I mean? And, we're talking about the extreme, but I'm also talking about people with attitudes in the church. Like always angry, always, uninviting, and bitter. It's all kinds of stuff in that keep people, that try to keep people from coming to church. So, any last thoughts from y'all? No?
That was awesome.
All right.
Okay.
Well, y'all, for our listeners, comment, let us know. Answer some of these questions that we talked about, here, and let us know what your thoughts are. We really appreciate y'all. Again, for non-believers, give God a chance. Don't let some of the people you've seen get in the way of you meeting him. Please don't. Don't miss your blessing.
That man.
Talk show.